The desert of Velora burned under a red sun. Hot winds carried the smell of dust and blood. Two warriors stood in the middle of the arena, a circle of black stone carved deep into the sand. Around them, hundreds of members of the Iron Fang clan watched in silence. No one dared to speak. This was no ordinary fight. This was the final duel, a battle that would decide the future of their entire clan. At the very center of the arena, glowing faintly in Kale Draven's hand, was the rune blade. Its surface was etched with strange, ancient symbols that shifted and moved like living creatures. No one knew who had forged the blade, or why. But every warrior of the Iron Fang clan feared it. The rune blade had chosen Kale. And tonight, it would either crown him as leader, or kill him. Across from Kale stood his challenger, Rovan Strike, a massive warrior with scars that told stories of 100 battles. His breath was heavy, his eyes burning with rage. Rovan was stronger, faster, and more experienced. But he didn't have the blade. The crowd trembled as the two men faced each other. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. An old voice broke the silence. The clan's elder, a frail man with gray skin and tired eyes, raised his hand. By the law of the Iron Fang, this duel shall decide our future. Fight until one stands, or until the sand drinks the blood of both. He lowered his hand. The arena exploded with sound as the two warriors clashed. Kale moved first, swinging the rune blade in a shining arc. The symbols on the weapon glowed brighter with every strike. Rovan blocked with his heavy axe, sparks flying as metal struck metal. The crowd shouted, some cheering for Kale, others for Rovan. But beneath the noise, a strange hum began to rise, a low, unnatural sound that came from the blade itself. Kale felt it vibrate in his hands. It was alive. He tried to focus on the fight, but a whisper reached his ears. Soft, cold words, in a language he didn't understand. The whisper came from the blade. Kill, claim, rule. Kale shook his head and pushed forward, slashing at Rovan's chest. Rovan roared, swinging his axe with crushing force. The impact knocked Kale backward, sand flying into his face. The crowd gasped as he fell to one knee. Rovan laughed, raising his axe for the final blow. Your reign ends before it begins, he shouted. At that moment, the rune blade's runes flared with blinding light. The whispers turned into a scream inside Kale's mind. Something ancient, something powerful, was awake. Kale surged to his feet with inhuman speed. His eyes glowed the same eerie color as the blade's runes. He slashed upward, the blade cutting through Rovan's axe as if it were paper, and then through Rovan himself. The crowd fell silent. Rovan stood frozen for a heartbeat, his face shocked, his mouth open. Then he collapsed into the sand, lifeless. Kale stood over him, chest heaving. The blade pulsed in his hands, the symbols moving faster now, as if celebrating the kill. The clan erupted into cheers and fear. Some warriors shouted Kale's name, others stared at him with wide, terrified eyes. The elder stepped forward, voice trembling. The duel is decided. The rune blade has chosen our leader. Kneel before Kale Draven. One by one, the clan dropped to their knees. The sound of hundreds bowing filled the arena like thunder. But Kale didn't feel victorious. His hands shook as he stared at the weapon. The whispering returned, louder now, like a chorus of dark voices. More blood. More power. He clenched his teeth, trying to resist the strange urge rising inside him. For a moment, it felt like the blade wasn't just in his hand, it was inside his mind, controlling him. Kale raised the sword high, trying to silence the voices. As he did, a sudden blast of wind tore through the arena. The runes on the blade burned so brightly that even the sun seemed dim. The crowd gasped and shielded their eyes. Some warriors fell flat against the ground, shaking in terror. And then, it stopped. The light faded, leaving only the normal desert glow. Kale stood alone, breathing heavily, his face pale and drenched in sweat. But there was something new in his eyes, a flicker of darkness, like a shadow moving beneath the surface. From the edge of the arena, a young woman named Lyra watched carefully. She was not cheering like the others. She had seen what no one else noticed, the way the blade seemed to move by itself, guiding Kale's strikes. The way the symbols pulsed like a heartbeat. And she had heard the old legends. Legends of a cursed weapon that never truly served its master. A weapon that consumed those who wielded it. As the clan celebrated, Lyra whispered to herself, her voice barely audible over the noise. "This isn't a victory," she said. "This is the beginning." The scene faded with Kale raising the rune blade over his head while the crowd cheered, unaware of the darkness they had just unleashed. The night after the duel was quiet, too quiet. The desert winds of Velora had gone still, as if the land itself was holding its breath. Inside the Iron Fang clan's fortress, Kale Draven sat alone in the great hall. The rune blade lay across his knees, glowing faintly in the darkness. The symbols on its surface shifted like snakes, never resting, never still. Kale couldn't stop staring at it. His hands trembled as he ran his fingers over the cold metal. Each rune seemed to hum beneath his skin, like it was alive, like it was watching him. He whispered to himself, voice shaking, "I am the leader now. This is my clan. My people." But deep inside, he felt something wrong. The victory did not feel like his own. When he closed his eyes, he saw flashes of the duel, his movements too fast, too perfect. It had been the blade, not him. And then came the voices. Soft at first, like a faint breeze in his mind. But now, they were louder, whispering words in a strange, ancient tongue. Kale didn't understand the language, but the meaning was clear. Kill. Claim. Rule. He covered his ears, shaking his head. "No. I control you," he shouted. The blade pulsed with light, as if mocking him. While Kale fought his inner demons, the rest of the clan celebrated. Fires burned bright in the courtyard, warriors drank and sang songs of victory. But under the surface, there was fear. Old warriors exchanged worried glances. They remembered the last time the rune blade had been used, decades ago, and how it had ended in tragedy. One elder muttered to another, "The blade never serves. It only takes." Among the crowd, Lyra moved silently, her sharp eyes scanning the faces around her. She had seen what others refused to see. The way Kale's eyes had glowed during the duel. The way the runes had burned brighter with every drop of blood. She slipped away from the firelight, heading toward the old library buried beneath the fortress. The library was dark, dusty, and filled with scrolls no one had touched in years. If there was any truth to the legends, she would find it here. Meanwhile, Kale left the great hall to address his people. The crowd fell silent as he stepped onto the high platform, the rune blade in his hand. "My clan," Kale began, his voice strong, though his heart was trembling. "The old leader has fallen. Today, we begin a new chapter. We will rise stronger than ever." The crowd cheered, though some voices were hesitant, unsure. As Kale raised the blade high, a strange wave of energy rippled through the air. Several warriors gasped and dropped to their knees, clutching their heads. Kale staggered, almost losing control. For a moment, his vision blurred, and he saw not the crowd, but armies of shadowy figures, kneeling before him. Thousands of them. He blinked, and the vision vanished. The rune blade pulsed in his grip, hungry for more. Back in the library, Lyra's hands shook as she opened a fragile hologram scroll. A flickering image appeared, the face of a long-dead warrior. His voice was weak but urgent. "If you are watching this, the rune blade has returned. You must listen carefully. It is not just a weapon. It is a prison." Lyra leaned closer, her breath catching. The image continued. Centuries ago, a warlord known as the Rune King sought to conquer every clan on Velora. His power was unmatched. The only way to stop him was to trap his spirit inside the blade. But the prison is unstable. With every life the blade takes, the Rune King grows stronger. When enough blood has been spilled, the image glitched, then flickered back. He will be free once more. Lyra's heart pounded. If this was true, Kale's victory had not saved the clan, it had doomed them all. That night, Kale tried to sleep, but nightmares kept him awake. He saw endless deserts filled with the bones of the dead. He saw himself standing on a mountain of skulls, the blade glowing like a star. And always, in the darkness, he heard the same voice whispering, "More blood, Kale. More blood." He woke with a gasp, drenched in sweat. The blade sat across the room, glowing softly, as if it had been watching him even in his dreams. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. "Kale!" a voice shouted. "Come quickly. Something's wrong." Kale grabbed the sword and ran to the courtyard. There, he found a group of warriors standing around a strange sight. A man lay dead on the ground, his face pale, his body twisted as if from terror. One of the warriors pointed with shaking hands. "We don't know what happened," he said. "He was on guard duty. Then we found him like this." The elder knelt beside the body, his face grave. This is the work of the blade." Kale's grip on the sword tightened. "That's impossible. I didn't even strike him." The elder looked up, fear in his eyes. "You don't understand. The blade does not need your hand to kill. It has its own will." From the shadows, Lyra stepped forward, her voice calm but filled with warning. "You think you control it, Kale. But you don't." Kale turned to her, anger and confusion on his face. "What are you talking about?" Lyra met his gaze. "The blade does not serve you. You serve it." The night wind rose suddenly, howling through the courtyard. The runes on the blade began to glow brighter, casting eerie light on everyone's faces. And somewhere deep inside the sword, a dark laughter echoed, low, ancient, and hungry. The scene ended with Kale staring at the blade, a single thought pounding in his mind. What have I unleashed? The days after the guard's mysterious death were filled with fear. The Iron Fang clan tried to go on with their daily life, training, hunting, guarding the fortress, but something was different now. The air felt heavier. The shadows seemed darker. And everyone could feel it, the rune blade was awake. At first, it was only small things. A torch flickering even though there was no wind. Whispers in the night, like voices hiding just beyond the walls. But soon, worse things began to happen. One evening, 2 warriors went missing during patrol. At dawn, their weapons were found buried in the sand outside the fortress, but their bodies were gone. The only sign of them was a strange symbol burned into the ground, glowing faintly before it faded away. The clan gathered in the courtyard, frightened and restless. Some blamed wild desert beasts. Others whispered about old spirits that hunted men in the dunes. But Lyra knew the truth. She pushed through the crowd and shouted, "This is the blade's work. It feeds on blood and fear." The crowd turned on her, some angry, some afraid. One warrior spat at her feet. "You lie. Kale is our leader. The blade is our strength." Lyra stood tall, refusing to back down. "Strength? Look around you. Our people vanish, our nights are haunted, and still you kneel before a cursed weapon." Before the argument could grow, Kale himself appeared. The rune blade rested in his hand, glowing faintly even in daylight. "Enough!" he roared, his voice echoing unnaturally. The crowd fell silent. Kale's face was pale, his eyes shadowed with exhaustion. He had not slept properly in days. Every night, the whispers in his head grew louder, clearer, more demanding. Sometimes, when he looked at his people, he saw them as they were. Other times, he saw them as enemies, faceless and covered in blood. That night, Lyra met secretly with the clan's elder in the old library. The room was cold and silent, filled with ancient scrolls and faded symbols carved into the stone walls. Lyra placed the hologram scroll on the table. The image of the ancient warrior appeared again, flickering and broken. She replayed the warning for the elder, who listened with growing dread. When the message ended, the elder whispered, "So it is true. The Rune King still lives, locked inside the blade." Lyra nodded, her voice tight. "And with every life it takes, he grows stronger. That is why people are disappearing. He is feeding on them." The elder's hands trembled. "We sealed him once before. But to do it again, we would need to destroy the blade itself." Lyra's face darkened. "And Kale will never allow that. The blade has already taken hold of him." Meanwhile, Kale stood alone in his chamber, staring at his reflection in a cracked mirror. His eyes were no longer the same. Faint streaks of glowing light moved beneath his skin, matching the runes on the blade. The whispers were louder now, almost deafening. But they were no longer in a strange tongue. He could understand them clearly. "Why do you resist?" the voice hissed. "They do not deserve your mercy. They are weak. Take them. Rule them." Kale slammed the blade against the wall, shouting, "Get out of my head!" The runes flared, filling the room with red light. When the glow faded, Kale found himself standing over a shattered table, his hands covered in blood, though he had no wounds of his own. He stumbled back, breathing hard. He didn't remember what had just happened. But deep down, he knew the truth. The blade was no longer just whispering to him. It was controlling him. The next day, panic swept through the fortress. 3 more warriors had vanished overnight. This time, their bodies were found, but they were unrecognizable, their faces twisted in terror. The clan erupted into chaos. Some shouted that the fortress should be abandoned. Others demanded that the blade be destroyed. A few still knelt before Kale, begging him to protect them. Kale tried to calm them, but as he spoke, a strange wind howled through the courtyard. The sky darkened, the red sun hidden behind swirling black clouds. The runes on the blade burned brighter than ever, glowing like fire. The ground trembled beneath their feet. A booming voice filled the air, a voice that came from everywhere and nowhere at once. "Kneel." Every warrior dropped to the ground, clutching their heads in pain. Some screamed. Others cried out Kale's name. Kale himself staggered, clutching the blade as the voice roared inside his skull. "Kneel," it said again, "or be destroyed." For a brief moment, Kale saw a vision. A towering figure wrapped in dark armor, standing in the middle of a battlefield. Its face was hidden, but its eyes glowed with the same runes as the blade. The Rune King. Lyra ran to Kale, shouting over the storm. "Kale! Fight it! This is not you." Kale's glowing eyes turned to her. For an instant, she saw the real Kale, frightened, lost, desperate. But then the darkness swallowed him again. In a voice that was not entirely his own, Kale spoke. "They must obey, or they must die." He raised the rune blade high. The runes blazed like a second sun, casting long, jagged shadows across the courtyard. The storm roared louder. Some warriors began chanting Kale's name, while others fled in terror. Lyra's heart pounded as she whispered to herself, "If we don't stop him now, there will be nothing left to save." As Kale brought the blade down, a shockwave of energy ripped through the fortress. Walls cracked. Torches went out. And in that moment, the Iron Fang clan truly understood. Their leader was no longer their own. The Rune King was awakening. The fortress of the Iron Fang clan lay in ruins. Walls were broken, fires burned unchecked, and the air was heavy with smoke and ash. The storm above raged like a living thing, black clouds swirling as lightning tore across the sky. At the center of it all stood Kale Draven, his body glowing with the same red light as the rune blade. He no longer looked like the man the clan had followed. The runes had spread across his skin like burning scars. His voice was deeper, layered with another presence, the Rune King. The clan knelt before him, trembling. Some obeyed out of fear. Others were forced down by an invisible power pressing on their bodies. The Rune King's voice roared through Kale, shaking the very stones. "Kneel, and you will be spared. Resist, and you will be broken." Many fell to their knees instantly, weeping. A few brave warriors stood, weapons shaking in their hands, refusing to submit. Kale raised the blade. The runes burned so brightly it was hard to look at them. With a single swing, he sent a wave of energy across the courtyard, shattering stone and throwing the rebels aside like dolls. The Rune King laughed, a deep, terrible sound that echoed in every heart. Your clan is mine. Your world will be next. In the shadows, Lyra watched, clutching a small dagger. Her heart pounded, but her resolve was strong. She remembered the elder's words. To stop the Rune King, the blade must be destroyed. The elder was gone now, killed in the chaos. It was up to her. She crept closer as Kale, or what he had become, raised the blade again to strike down the last of the rebels. Kale! She shouted. The sound of her voice cut through the storm for a moment. Kale froze. His glowing eyes flickered, as if the real Kale was fighting to surface. Lyra, he said, his voice trembling. For a heartbeat, it sounded like himself again. You're stronger than this, Lyra cried. Fight it. The Rune King doesn't own you. But the darkness surged back with a roar. Kale's face twisted in rage, and the Rune King spoke through him. He is mine. Lightning struck the ground between them, blasting sand into the air. When it cleared, Kale was standing just steps away, the blade pointed at Lyra's chest. You cannot win, he growled. This power, it is destiny. Lyra tightened her grip on the dagger. Then I'll fight destiny. The final battle began. Kale struck first, swinging the rune blade in a blur of red light. Lyra rolled aside, barely avoiding the deadly arc. The ground where she had stood exploded, leaving a smoking crater. She darted in close, slashing with her dagger, but the blade met Kale's sword and shattered instantly. The rune blade's power was too great. Lyra dove backward, breathing hard. She had no weapon now, but she had something more important, a plan. As Kale charged again, she shouted, Kale, listen to me. The Rune King is using you. Every life you take, every drop of blood spilled, it only makes him stronger. For an instant, Kale faltered. His eyes flickered again, his steps slowing. Inside his mind, he heard two voices, Lyra's desperate plea, and the Rune King's furious command. Kill her! The Rune King roared. No! Kale shouted, clutching his head. Lyra saw her chance. She rushed forward, tackling Kale with all her strength. They tumbled across the cracked courtyard, the rune blade spinning free for a moment. Lyra scrambled toward it, but Kale grabbed her ankle, yanking her down. His face was a mask of rage and pain. Don't touch it, he snarled. Lyra kicked free and reached the blade. As her hands closed around the hilt, a surge of dark energy blasted through her body, almost knocking her unconscious. The whispers filled her head, trying to twist her thoughts. But she gritted her teeth and focused on one thing, saving Kale. The Rune King's voice filled the courtyard. Foolish girl. You think you can destroy me? Lyra screamed back. I'm not afraid of you. She raised the blade high and brought it down, not on Kale, but on a stone altar in the center of the courtyard. The runes flashed wildly, as if in panic. No! The Rune King bellowed. Kale reached out, his voice breaking. Lyra, wait. The blade struck the altar. A deafening explosion of light and sound ripped through the fortress. Warriors were thrown to the ground. The storm above shattered, revealing a dark, starless sky. When the light faded, Lyra opened her eyes slowly. The rune blade was gone. Only fragments of black metal remained, smoking in the sand. Kale lay motionless nearby, his body free of the glowing runes. He groaned and sat up weakly, confusion in his eyes. Lyra, what happened? You're free, she said softly, tears in her eyes. It's over. But as she spoke, a shadow moved at the edge of the courtyard. Lyra turned, her heart sinking. There, standing tall and unbroken, was a towering figure of pure darkness, the Rune King himself, finally free from his prison. His eyes burned like twin suns as he gazed down at them. You have destroyed my cage, he said, his voice cold and deep. Now, I will conquer without it. Kale struggled to his feet, but he was too weak to fight. Lyra stepped in front of him, determination hardening her face. "This isn't over," she said. "Not while I still stand." The Rune King laughed, a sound that shook the earth. "Then you will be the first to fall." The screen faded to black as his massive shadow loomed over them. A single line of text appeared. "The duel is finished, but the war has just begun."